hopefully we will be returning to a live in-person meeting for our next ward forum later in the autumn. But for now, I think it's probably for everybody's benefit, it's right that we continue in a virtual format. And after we are allowed to go back to meet face-to-face, we have suggested that actually it might be a good idea to alternate these, one face-to-face, the next one online, because some people find online more convenient and they can keep warm at home, sup an ale or whatever you do while attending the meeting. Or Tony, I think, has a bottle of Welsh whiskey. Was it right? He's going to eyes. Luckily you're muted, Tony, so we're not sure what you're drinking. Right, let's get on with the business. So I just wanted to confirm that this is a formal meeting run by the City Council, and that we're here at Kath and I as City Councillors, and that this is one of a regular series of formal meetings that the City Council have at ward level, so residents can find out what's going on and can ask questions of the presenters. We've got an action-packed agenda tonight. I just have to confirm, I think formally, that this meeting is going to be recorded. It will appear on YouTube actually as a recording of the live meeting. So anyone who's missing it today can catch up on another day, and any of you who've missed stuff tonight can see it again another night. So I will circulate, and Leslie will too, the YouTube link once that's recorded. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item 3 for tonight, which, as those of you who've looked at the agenda, is a public health update from the Public Health Directorate of Birmingham City Council. And I'm really pleased to welcome a new presenter to the Sutton Vesey ward, who is Stephen Whelan. And Stephen is going to do 2 jobs for us tonight, one of which is to guide you through a new public health and wellbeing strategy the City Council are trying to put together, which will pick up a lot of the post-COVID issues that have come to light over the last couple of months, couple of years. And the second thing he will do is update us on COVID-related matters such as vaccinations and the latest incidence rates for our locality. So, Stephen, do you want to kick off and give us, say, 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll open the meeting for questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you for the invite. Hopefully I'll be able to start this presentation. The slideshow will start. Can everyone see that?
No.
Not on this screen.
Not yet. Okay. Let me try that again. Always the technical difficulties at the start.
Oh, well, that's part of the fun. We're all learning. 2 years ago, I didn't know where to start with any of this. Right, I can see something on the screen. That's the agenda.
Okay.
Oh, I can see your presentation. Well done.
Excellent. We're there. So, as I said, welcome. I'm Stephen Whelan. I'm one of the public health officers, one of the leads for the COVID response for the city. So I've been asked to come along and do this health and wellbeing board strategy presentation to you, which is a bit outside my comfort zone, but then I'll be able to answer any questions on COVID, which is more my comfort zone. That's where I'm working at the moment. So hopefully this shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. So what is the Health and Wellbeing Strategy Board? Well, the public health at the council are here on behalf of the Health and Wellbeing Board. We in the public health are responsible for protecting and improving health and the well-being of the population. We also have a specific responsibility to reduce the health inequalities. So things like the difference between those that are the richest and the poorest, and the health inequalities between different wards. And the Health and Wellbeing Board is a place for the political, clinical, professional and community leads from across the care and health system to come together in Birmingham to improve the health and well-being of the local population and help reduce those health inequalities. They've been in place since 2013 when they were established through the Health and Social Care Act, and And through the Health and Wellbeing Board, they work with organisations such as NHS to promote the integration of services and work together to improve health and wellbeing, and as I said, tackle these health inequalities, especially those that have been worsened recently by the COVID-19 pandemic. How the strategy was developed. So creating a bolder, healthier city has been shaped and developed over the past 3 years, and this has used learning from the Public Health 2019 Green Paper consultation, the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment, Seldom Heard Voices focus groups, the ethnographic research and insight surveys over 2020 and 21. The delivery of the strategy is going to require leadership and action from the Health and Wellbeing Board sub-forums and the partner groups. And the proposed approach is for the strategy to be a framework signposting to action across the health and care system. So the actual vision, so it's a shared vision to create a healthier city where every citizen at every stage of their life in all communities can make healthier choices that are affordable, sustainable and desirable to support them to achieve their potential for a happier, healthier life. The board also recognises the importance of this framework interconnecting with the emerging priorities of the NHS, the integrated care systems and the duty to address inequalities and the responsibilities and strategies of the police, the Police and Crime Commissioner, as well as all the public sector business academy and community partners. So what is the strategy? So the framework has got the 5 core themes you can see across the top there for action, covering the wider disturbance, health protection and environmental public health. The 5 core themes run throughout the live courses, which is split into 3 stages across the bottom. And then the strategy contains 2 cross-cutting approaches, which is the blue line present in all 5 core themes and the live course. And then closing the gap, which is the pink circle, runs through the entire strategy. Let's just go through those in a bit more detail. So starting with those core themes. So the framework has 5 core themes for action. 4 of the core themes in the framework align with existing sub-forums. So you've got the health and affordable food theme, which aligns with the creating a healthy food city forum. The mental wellness and balance theme, which is aligned with the creating a mentally healthy city forum. Active at every age and ability, linked to creating an active city forum, contributing to a green and sustainable future, and the protect and detect, which is linked to the health and protection forum. So I mentioned the life course, and the Health and Wellbeing Board supports a whole life course approach, which is reflected in this framework. So the idea is that it's from the start of life all the way through, as they say, from cradle to grave. So it's split into 3 life stages: getting the best start in life, working well, and aging and dying well. The framework has incorporated the experience and response to the pandemic alongside the ongoing commitment to equality, diversity and inclusion. The framework contains 2 cross-cutting approaches present in all 5 themes and the life course strands. So you've got mitigating the legacy of COVID and equality, diversity and inclusion. And finally, as mentioned, the closing the gap. The Health and Wellbeing Board is committed to reducing inequalities. The aim of the framework is to close the gap and inequalities at pace and scale across the city, which Health and Wellbeing Board sub-forums will be tasked to demonstrate progress on through the action plans. Closing the gap section aims to address health inequalities linked to poverty, marginalisation and structural barriers and challenges. There's 5 key areas of the inequalities of focus, and they include inequalities based on deprivation, the inequalities based on ethnic communities, the inequalities based on wards, inequalities between inclusion groups like the homeless and sex workers, and the inequalities affecting disabled people. The delivery of this strategy will explore these inequalities by dedicating specific resources and efforts to addressing them and identify clear evidence of significant gaps for people with an intention to close these gaps to improve the outcomes of the citizens of Birmingham. How are we going to actually measure this? So to measure the impact of the strategy over the next 5 to 10 years, on your screen, hopefully you can see the indicators present in Birmingham of health, and you can clearly see those in red. It's significantly worse in Birmingham than the average in England. So, for instance, the infant mortality rate from 2017 to 2019 in Birmingham is significantly worse than the mortality rate is significantly higher than you would have in the rest of England. So it's things like this that we'll measure it against and try and improve that. So as you can see, there's a lot of work for the Public Health and the Health Wellbeing Board Forum to put right. How can you get involved? So this is a draft strategy, and the consultation can be found on the Be Heard website, and the web page is there, and I'll put these links into the chat. Also, if you've got any questions about the strategy or the consultation, then there's an email there which I'll put into the chat as well that you can contact. We are going around all the ward forums, and we're going to do this presentation, and also we're going to have some focus groups going around to the wards as well for those that aren't digitally connected, to make sure that we get as much engagement as possible. So that's that presentation. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Thank you for that. Are there any questions on that first part?
Can I just say by way of introduction, it's quite heavy going, that presentation, so don't be put off by it. It's it's communicated as clearly, I think, with Stephen as it's possible to do. I know a lot of members of our ward are concerned about care for older people, and also, thinking of Becky and others here, a lot of people have got kids, and child health, I'm sure, will be also a concern. So I'll be keen to pick up any questions on those issues or anything else people want to raise. Just as an introduction, since Kath hadn't had a chance to explain this, there is a way of raising your hand at this meeting, and at the top of the screen, 3 icons in, there's a little raised hand that you can click, and I can see that Ray, Francis and John have all found out how to do it. So I will take those 3 residents in that order. So Ray, do you want to come in with a question?
You're on mute, Ray.
Well,
Ray, you're on mute. There you go.
I was a bit late joining you, I'm afraid, having technical issues at my end, but I'm with you now. And right at the end of what you were just saying, you mentioned neighbourhood forums. Does that mean that you are going to visit neighbourhood forums individually? Because we have organised an AGM for our Mulberry Neighbourhood Forum for the 9th of November in person, rather than an online thing, and wondered whether you would like to come and speak to the residents that turn up for that.
So that's a great question. Unfortunately, I won't be able to turn up to these. I'm a bit outside of Birmingham at the moment, but that's a question which I can take forward. As I say, if you've got any specific questions about the strategy and how it's been presented, you can email that email address, but I'll take that to the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I'll ask them if they're looking at going to specific neighbourhood forums.
I can recommend the Boldmere Neighbourhood Forum. Just remind me, Ray, of the date. It's November, I think, is it?
It's November the 9th at the Newman Community Centre, as it's now called, formerly the Carpenter's Arms, at 7:30. There you
We
are.
look forward to seeing you there. Thanks. I've got Francis Hayward next.
Hello there.
Over.
Hey there. Thanks for coming. Interesting indeed. I've spent a lot of my life working in the connection between health and housing, and was surprised, astonished actually, that housing hasn't featured as one of the key areas you should be looking at, because it's just the root of so much ill physical health and mental health and children's well-being. So do you think you would be able to get back, with this sort of idea to the team and suggest that a big place needs to be made for housing as one of the core factors affecting people's health and well-being?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my
Brilliant,
background in
thanks.
environmental health, and I totally agree. And I think the housing health and safety rating system was a great move forward at the turn of the century. But
Yeah.
I know we've got environmental health and the built environment as part of it, but it's not one of the core themes. So I'll definitely take that back.
Brilliant, thanks.
There we go. We're helping to build the strategy. You can always recruit us and pay us off if you want to, Stephen. John Hayward has got his hand up.
Good evening, Steve.
Good evening.
What I was going to ask was, are you including the problems of air quality caused by vehicles, and trying to deter people from having such vehicles as SUVs? Because in Sutton we have been measuring the air quality and reinterpreting figures we've got. The new WHO guideline, 10 micrograms per cubic meter. All our Sutton readings will be above that. And in addition, we had a lecture the other day which said that particulates are getting into children from birth, and that these particulates are affecting internal organs like liver and brain. So, and therefore that will be having an effect on your, on your life expectancy. So, will you be including this and starting to challenge people driving big cars? And also, do you have links to the town council's health and wellbeing partnership?
Just by way of introduction, by the way, Stephen, John runs or is an active member of a brilliant community group in Sutton called Eco Sutton, and they've really shown the way forward in tackling environmental issues and air pollution in particular in Sutton Coalfield. So John is a very influential member of our ward, and I'm sure he'd be keen to keep in touch on this. Stephen, did you want to come back on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first part, John, I didn't quite catch the second part, so we'll come back to that afterwards, if I may. The first part, the air quality, definitely with the World Health Organization's new standards which are brought out, which is more stringent than they were before. I believe Birmingham as a whole is 4 times over some of the standards that they brought out. And I know you mentioned the particulates, especially the 2.5 micron ones. The respirable ones are the ones which are doing the most damage to a lot of inner cities. So definitely that's something which will be taken into account. And how I know we've already started in Birmingham in trying to reduce vehicle usage. And certainly the nitrous oxides is a one which is particularly from vehicles which we're trying to reduce. So yeah, that will definitely be in there. The second question you asked was to do with, was it a central wellbeing?
Yes, in Sutton Coalfield we have a town council, and they have a health and wellbeing panel, which will potentially be relevant to you. So you may want to contact them.
Yeah, definitely. I'll pass that on to the team if they don't already know. I'm sure they do, to get in touch with the Sutton Health and Wellbeing panel. Definitely. Thank you for those questions, John.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. This is Becky Clark. Becky is the secretary of another reputable residents group in Sutton, which is the Friends of Boldmere and Banners Gates of Sutton Park. And Becky also knows a lot about flooding, quite topical at the moment. given the ponds that have developed Boldmere Road. Over to you, Becky.
Yeah. Hi, I'm hoping it stops raining soon. I believe we're in for a lovely weekend this weekend, which is fantastic. So I've had a look through the draft strategy, and there's two areas, mental health and balance. And I noticed both focuses on adults only. I'm thinking post-COVID, a lot of children have been experiencing a lot of social isolation, and all the activities, clubs and opportunities to have that sort of peer support has been taken away from them over the last 18 months. And I say that from a frame of living in a middle class area where there's lots of after school clubs and lots of activities that are now starting up again. I was wondering why children didn't feature in mental health and balance, because a lot of the things described like self-harming often happen in adolescents and younger children. So surely it might be good to have something in there that promotes kinship and support and an environment of support and feeling comfortable and able to feel like you can talk to someone about a problem. That's kind of missing. It's just focused on adults, but the mental health and well-being that we have as adults is often shaped by our experiences when we're younger. And again, there's no link to sort of like or priority for children that have had a difficult time at home or perhaps been in the care of the local authority. So that was one thing to sort of mention. And as I say, I think mental health going forward for certainly teenagers, it could be bumpy because of the isolation. So it'd be good to see if there was something in there about a post-COVID recovery. Likewise, active at every age completely misses out the under 18s. That they're not included in the summary at all, which is a real shame, because we all know that the lifestyle and habits that we have in terms of exercise, walking and being fitter that we develop at childhood often are patterns that we continue into adulthood. So I was wondering, were you planning to do any study on access to play facilities? So we live in Vesey Ward, which I must say is an amazing place to live. And we're right on the doorstep of Sutton Park, which is the largest park in Birmingham, one of the largest urban parks in Europe. But there isn't anywhere for my children or any of their friends at Boldmere School. There's nowhere for them to play with in walking distance, sorry if you can hear them in the background. This is what happens when they have too much energy in the evening.
This is it, we need a playground in the back garden.
We've got one, but it's raining and they won't go outside. So you know, if there was some sort of guidance on where play facilities should be delivered, looking at walkability for under 12s, for example, because I mean, I can walk down to Princess Alice Retail Park and I know there's a little play area there, but to do that with a toddler is 45 minutes. And when you get there, there's no toilets or facilities for them. So if you get them, they need a wee, you know you're going to have wet trousers on the way home. And again, the active at every age is not just about having the facilities available, but the supporting facilities. So as I was saying, at Boldmere Gate, you know, if you want to go for a nice long walk, it's a lot easier to do that if you're a man than if you're a woman, and certainly someone with a disability, because there's no public toilets there. And that is yet another barrier to people enjoying the space around them. My dad had prostate cancer, and sadly it did take him a few years ago, and the lack of available toilets was one of the really limiting factors in him being able to enjoy outdoor space. My mum sadly died of bladder cancer, so it's not looking good for me, to be honest. And they both died in their early 60s. And again, because she had bags fitted to her kidneys, it really limited how she could interact as well. So apart from you know, looking at what provision there is within the community for recreation, it's also about having that supporting infrastructure, things like public toilets, because ultimately, whether you're a 2-year-old or you're a 90-year-old, and anywhere in the middle, there's certain things that you need to be able to spend time outdoors. So basic things like toilets and hand washing are one of those things that really enables people to make the most of the outdoor space, which we know predominantly, you know, affects people's health and well-being and mental health too. There's lots and lots of studies that I refer to in my day job about the benefits of having sustainable drainage and that green and blue infrastructure within new developments. But even when you've got the largest urban park on your doorstep, there are probably many people in our community that can't spend the time that they would choose there because of the lack of supporting facilities to enable them to have that access. And on that, I'll finish.
You got a quick update on that then, Stephen. Thanks, Becky.
Yeah, no, that's some really good points you've brought up there. I think, first of all, going back to children's mental health, I believe CAMS is going to be part of the strategy that we'll be discussing with Cancer, Childhood and Adolescent Mental Health Services. If not, it's certainly something which I'm going to put to the strategy. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. And as part of that recovery from COVID, it's definitely important, as you say, that the mental health of the children has suffered. And before I was doing this work, I was working with Princess Trust, so it's something close to my heart as well, the mental health and seeing how the adolescents have suffered during the pandemic. Looking at the second point you brought up about the green spaces, there's a lot of work being done on green spaces in the city, as you're probably aware, and the accessibility to it and access to green spaces. And you brought up a very good point there about it's not just having the facility and access to it, it's the support facilities that go with it as well. It's not something which I think is raised enough. So that's definitely something I'll go back to the Health and Wellbeing Board with and say, you know, this is something additional that we need to look at. So thank you very much for those.
Thanks, and Stephen. My co-colleague, Councillor Kath Scott, had her hand up too. So do you want to dive in, Kath?
I do. I just wanted to pipe up with regard to the mental health side of things, in particular for adolescents and teenagers. And there is a system in place at the moment, and it's come through the Health and Wellbeing Board, through the special educational needs side and the whole education system. And there's this system out there called Kooth, Kooth, and it's run by professional psychologists, and it's a completely anonymous interactive forum for children and young adults to access for completely free, and it runs from the age of 11 through to 25, and that is a service that can bounce children into other services that they require as well, and that's something that I work on within my role within the city to enhance for children. So other ways to get support for children and young people is through the school environment and through the school nursing system and through the educational psychology team to get the support that those kids need. So I just wanted to reiterate that there are things out there, but clearly we need to do better at advertising what is there for our children to grab hold of to support their mental health. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. I've made a note of that, and I'll make sure that's passed on as well.
Okay.
I'm sure they're aware of it at the HWB.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Thanks everybody then for those really helpful questions. As I said, this is quite a highbrow discussion, but we're ready for it in Sutton Vesey. So great stuff that people have got into feedback on it. Stephen, you were going to pick up before we finish on COVID, home territory, I think, for you. So over to you for bite number 2.
Yes, so just a quick update. Just open up the email I got from the data team today. So I think last time I updated your ward, you're in the top percentile, and again, certainly the last couple of weeks the rate has come down. Last week you were at 376.5 cases per 100,000 population, and you were ranked the 14th highest at the 69 wards in Birmingham. And this week the case rate is down to 361, per 100,000 population, and that's between the week 26th of September to 2nd of October. But you're now ranked the 12th highest out of the 69 wards, even though that's come down. And to put that into perspective, I suppose, throughout Birmingham, the case rate is 240 per 100,000, and at the moment you're sitting at 361 per 100,000. So case rates are coming down, but still, and I think the initial cut-off threshold was 200 per 100,000. So even the city itself is still above that initial threshold. And with the vaccination rates, some better news. The vaccination population age 16 plus first doses, we've got 86.6% of the ward are vaccinated, and within the vaccination population, those with both doses is 82.2%. So that's really good percentage there in the ward. That's all the data I've got for you. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. I know I've already had one question, which I'll answer. Shall I take all the questions first, Councillor?
Yeah,
or shall I
best
answer
take the
yours
questions.
first?
I'll leap in with the first one. We want to get to the bottom of why Sutton Vesey is persistently a high incidence rate. In the early stages of the pandemic, a year or more ago, it was understood there's an elderly population here. There were a lot of care homes in our area, and we suspected that was what was driving it. Now, of course, infection levels are much more prevalent amongst younger people, but here we are in Sutton Vesey with a rate that's 50% higher than the city average, and it's a lot higher than a lot of the inner city wards, and yet we have an exceptionally high vaccination rate. So what's going on? Have you got any idea why this is the case?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a very good question, and although we've got a very high vaccination rate, you've got to realise that the vaccination will stop you being hospitalised or reduce the risk of you being hospitalised if you succumb to the infection. It's not going to stop you getting the infection. So the infection rate is still high. The issues we're finding Birmingham-wide is definitely schools at the moment, with children returning to schools, and a lot of the schools in the Sutton area are very high. We're looking at it just this morning, and I think the top 4 outbreaks we've got in schools are all in the Sutton area. So that's definitely something which is driving those rates up. The fact that they've had the change in the schools where they don't have to isolate as a contact now is something which is driving those rates up. But as I said, because you've got such a high vaccination rate, although this is transmitting throughout the community, we're not seeing the hospitalisations and the fatalities, thankfully. So that's one thing that could be driving it up. And also, as we went into step 4, a lot of social distancing was stopped, the reducing of face masks, and I know Sutton is a very sociable place to be, and again, you know, the socialisation of humans, because we're very social beasts, again is driving up the case rates. So that's my thoughts and theory on it, and the fact that you've got such a high vaccination rate it alleviates my concerns quite a lot with that. If you had low vaccination rates and high case rates, then I'd be a lot more concerned, because you're probably going to start seeing a lot more hospitalisations and then some very, very poorly people.
Thanks, Stephen. I know Sutton Vesey residents like a good party, so maybe that's what is driving all of this. And you made a salutary point. You may have been vaccinated, but you've not been immunised. And we all need to remember that, because a kind of false sense of confidence can occur with, I've had my jabs, but actually the Director of Public Health in Birmingham had his jabs, as you would expect, and last week caught COVID quite badly. So it's no means an escape from the virus. It's a way of alleviating the worst symptoms, but we need to, all of us, be aware that it's still out there, and you can still become infected. Now, Tony Willis has got his hand up. Tony chairs one of the other neighbourhood forums in our ward. In fact, the longest serving neighbourhood forum in the city, I think. Is that right, Tony? You've got a question.
I believe. I'm surprised you're here today and very relieved because I'm Health and Safety Officer of the local community hall. Now, when that lovely man in number 10 decided to open up the country, we had to change our numbers slightly. So we went from a 12 maximum to a 16 maximum. And they have to hand sanitize when they go in, have their temperature taken, open the windows, open the doors, wipe everything down that they're going to use and wipe it down afterwards. And we tend to maintain this setup because the majority of people who use the hall are of a certain age, and we feel that we are responsible for whatever goes on in there. Now we have a problem with one of the clubs, and it's the Bridge Club. Now the difference between the activities we have at the moment and the Bridge Club is that bridge is a game played on a small table with people quite close this way and quite close that way, and then when they've played their game, they move on to another one. Now I think this is quite risky, but what they've decided is that they don't want to open the windows and doors because it's winter and they're all getting on and they don't want a cold blast going through the hall, and it's their responsibility. So the committee were in two minds, and unfortunately my mind was not in the majority. So what I insisted was that we have every member of that club sign to indemnify ourselves against anything that happens to them. In other words, they sign that they are responsibility for their health. Now, I'm not particularly happy with this because as a health and safety officer, I feel that we are the people who are responsibility, have the responsibility. So can I have your comments on that, please?
Yeah,
Stephen?
definitely. I hear you with that, Tony. And from a health and safety point of view, certainly, you've got a duty of care in a workplace as you would expect, and you can do your COVID risk assessments, and you can put in your control measures and make sure those control measures are adhered to. But when it comes down to enforcement, we have lost all powers of enforcement. So although under the Health and Safety at Work Act and all the other regulations that go with it, you've got all those enforcement powers. We've lost all enforcement powers at the moment, apart from you must isolate if you're a case. And obviously if you're a contact of that case and you're not double vaccinated and you're over 18 and a half, again, you must isolate. That is the only legal requirement we now have. Everything else is advisory and is guidance. Our hands are very much tied. There's no reason we're reasonably practicable, which you have in health and safety. There's none of this legal precedence has been set. So no, I hear you. You can, you can advise that this is what they do. They try and socially distance as much as possible. Maybe get some larger tabletops to go over the top, so the partners sitting opposite each other on playing bridge are further away. But the ventilation is a big thing, and it's going to be a problem this time of year. This is an airborne infection. It gets transmitted from people breathing, and we can't stop that. And the way of mitigating it is by increasing ventilation and all the other control measures which we've all become aware of. So if they, as I said, your hands are tied. There is no legal requirement for them to do anything different from what they are doing now. But as the man in number 10 said, we're all now responsible for our own health and the health of those around us. And if they are, they need to be more socially responsible, I think. And that's the message I'd put across, that these individuals should try and be a bit more socially responsible for their actions, and make it a moral issue as opposed to a legal issue.
Are you saying in effect that we can't get them to sign that it's now their responsibility, and if anything happens, it's not the hall's responsibility?
You can ask them to sign, but you can't enforce it.
Good. Well, I hope none of them are listening to this, because we're certainly going to ask them to sign.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tony is a great persuader. You've got the gift of the gab, Tony. So I'm sure if you can't do it, no one can. Kath, you've got your hand up.
I think I'm failing in this one, mate. Thank you very much for that.
Well, let's see the day. Come on then, Kath, you've got a hand up.
I just there was one slight thing that I missed off the back of Becky's question, which was that we have something in place that's come through the Birmingham Children's Partnership, and it's called the Early Help Offer. And this is basically 10 locality hubs across the city. We have one in Sutton Coalfield, which is run by a company called Spurgeon's. I've put the details in the chat. And so it's basically an access to family support. So if you have children with mental health issues or any other issues whatsoever, or any kind of family advice that is required, these are the people that you can go to get that help as well. And I was just wondering to do if I could do a straw poll, if we would like to get them in to one of our ward meetings to explain what their services are to the whole community. I think that would be a really good idea.
Good question. Let's stick a comment in the chat. That'll be a good test to see if you can use the chat to say yes or no to Spurgeon's coming to our next meeting. The chat button, by the way, is the second one from the left at the top of your screen. So stick a comment in that. Oh, there we are. Becky's hot on the case. Great idea. Well, you got a 1-0 at least now, Kath. But if others can put comments in that chat, that'd be great. And I'm going to close this section of the agenda now and thank Stephen very much for his contribution. Wherever you're located, we don't know where you are, in the outer islands of Scotland or in the pub down the beaches, I don't know, but wherever you are, we've enjoyed your contribution. We appreciate your input, and we'll keep a close watch on the COVID infection rates in our ward, because it does persist as a problem for us. And one of the purposes of these meetings is to keep that alert button going, and you've done a great job in reminding members of the public to take care of themselves and take care of their friends and neighbours as well. So thanks for your time. I'll move on to the next agenda item. As members who attend these will already know, Kath and I chair these sort of alternately. So I do one half and Kath does the other half. And since I've kicked off, I'll do the next item, which is about the Commonwealth Games Communities Fund. And then, Kath, if you can pick up with the road safety item with Karl Randall, and then the policing contribution with Zulf.
Certainly can.
So let me round off with the Commonwealth Games Community Fund. This should be a reminder to members of this forum. We have had a presentation on this fund, which is worth £22,500 in total to cover the Sutton Vesey ward, and community groups in Sutton Vesey ward are entitled to bid in for this money. And there are 2 rounds of it. We're now on the second round, invitations to go in. And what we're going to do today, we normally have John Mole with us from the Neighbourhoods unit of the City Council. John's not able to be here tonight, but his shoes are going to be amply filled by a new employee, Carla Bell. I'd really like to give a warm welcome to Carla, who I've known over many years, actually. So it's great to see her back working for the City Council and about to inform and entertain us on the subject of the Commonwealth Games Community Fund. So Carla, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor, and good evening, everybody. So as Councillor Pocock has said, my name is Carla Bell, and I've recently started with the Neighbourhood Development and Support Unit as a Community Support and Development Officer, so doing the same role as John Mole. So I was just going to give you a quick update just on round 2 before handing over to Ray Goodwin, who will then give you some more information about round 1. So really, this was just a reminder that round 2 applications, so the grant round is currently open at the moment, and the deadline for applications is the 30th of November. So it will run similar to round 1, so that you can apply for up to £10,000, and there is different applications for the different amounts, so up to £1,000, up to £5,000, then up to £10,000. and the way that it will work, there'll be a review of those applications between December and January, and then from I think between January and March, there will be facilitated meetings such as what Ray will go through today, where the community will vote on the applications they would like to support. So if you are interested in applying and you'd like some more information or support, Birmingham Community Matters and Locality are providing that support for groups, so they can offer grant guidance, and they're doing some support sessions for community groups and organisations, as well as running sessions to perfect your pitch for when you come to meetings. So I will put into the chat a link to the website so you can find out more information. So just to take from this then, so the deadline is the 30th of November, so applications can be submitted at the moment. So thank you, that's all from me, and I think I'm passing over to Ray.
Yeah, thanks, Carla, and we'll be seeing more of you in the future, I hope. Ray, if you want to introduce your role and add to that contribution.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say also, we also have an applicant who's going to present tonight as well, from Age Concern. I will hand over to them a little bit, and I'll just talk about the process in a second. So for my role, I'm here to facilitate this part of the meeting where applicants will come along and present their application, ensure that there's a proper voting process, and facilitate questions and answers, and just manage this whole part. So for round one, there is one application, but I am aware for Sutton Vesey there are a number of applications in the pipeline at the moment being worked up. So hopefully, by the time we get to the 31st of March, we will have spent the full allocation within Sutton Vesey, because the last thing any of us would want is the money to be returned, especially when lots of good things could happen. So that's my role. Could I hand over to my colleague Janice from Age Concern, who will do a presentation on the application she has put forward to Sutton Vesey for the Celebrating Communities Fund? Janice, would you like to kind of present?
Hi. Yeah. Ray, do I not have access to share? My presentation is a PowerPoint with a voiceover.
I've just given you access, Janice.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, I'm going to try sharing now. Maybe it's just taking time. It's still telling me that only meeting organisers. Leslie, my screen still isn't allowing me to share. Are you able to share it from what I sent you earlier at all? Oh, I'm okay now. Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
It come through.
Yeah, thank you for your patience, everyone. I'm just about to start the presentation now. So the presentation is a PowerPoint slide with a voiceover.
Janice, we can't see or hear the presentation.
Do you want me to try and do it from my computer?
It says.
Yes, please, Leslie.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with.
Thank you.
So I've done nothing different to what I normally do.
Oops. Can you see that now?
There's nothing on this screen.
Something flashed on the screen very briefly and went off again.
I think I'm able to share it, so I'll try, Leslie.
Okie doke.
There's something there.
Welcome to Age Concern Birmingham and our project Stepping Out. It is our intention to reconnect communities and build positive attitudes as we welcome the Commonwealth Games to Birmingham in 2022. Age Concern Birmingham is a local charity who is committed to supporting older people and communities surrounding Birmingham. We have been delivering our services for over 30 years, and our focus is to meet and excel the needs of older people and others in need. Some of our services currently offered are community cafes, wellbeing centres, weekly support groups, advice and information helpline, support for carers, domestic support to individuals, a befriending service, and a trusted tradesperson scheme. During the COVID-19 pandemic, people of all ages have been prone to isolation and loneliness due to shielding and lockdown restrictions. As these restrictions are now being lifted, our project is an incentive to engage and interact with people in communities across Birmingham to reduce loneliness and isolation. Our project will run from the Community Cafe in Boldmere and will offer a range of recreational activities and events to suit various levels of ability and interest. We will focus on connecting people by offering small weekly group activities. Our community cafe is a vibrant and friendly environment which already attracts a wealth of customers of various ages. Additionally, this space currently serves as a host for many daytime events and gatherings for the local community. Activities at this venue have to be carefully planned, but prior to COVID, seated wellbeing classes that were run proved very popular, so we will be looking to bring these back. The activities will be carefully planned to suit the environment and will appeal to a variety of age groups, abilities and interests. Stepping Out will run between October to July of 2022 and will provide access to a wide range of activities. The project coordinator will work with the volunteer coordinator to recruit appropriate volunteers to lead and support the activities. The developed programme will be marketed in the local community by social media, leaflets and other networking community groups prior to the launch. The programme will be managed and monitored on a monthly basis to ensure that we successfully meet the demands and expectations of the community. Our expected project outcomes will be to reconnect people, to reduce loneliness and isolation, and allow others to form new friendships. There will be an increase in group activities, promote an active lifestyle which will naturally improve physical and emotional health. The project's success will be measured by questionnaires, case studies, data analysis, and of course feedback. The legacy of Stepping Out of the activities after the project has come to an end. As the activities are led by volunteers, we will continue to support all volunteers so that they can deliver the activities on an ongoing basis. Age Concern Birmingham would like to thank you for your interest in our project Stepping Out. We will now try and answer any questions you may have.
Right, so if anybody's got any questions on that presentation, I'll take comments in the chat. Paul, you've got your hand up. Did you want to make a comment on this or on another project? Paul Long is secretary of the Boldmere Futures Partnership.
Well, there's on a few things because there was quite a lot that was covered there before that presentation as well. So I've got quite a few questions that I wanted to raise. But in particular, I just want to know what is this? What is the purpose of this presentation this evening? And then can I once to know what the answer to that question is, can I just come back?
Yeah, I think what we're doing this evening is a process, if I'm right. I'll bring Ray in a sec. The applicants, once they've got an application together, are invited to present that application to a ward forum. And then at some later point, we need to decide how to divvy up the money from the various applications. We've only got one in yet, so we're obviously keen to hear the Age Concern presentation. They're a great group in our ward, but obviously all the other groups, and I know Paul, you're one of them, will need to want to put their requests in as well before we come to any final decisions.
So was there a financial amount that went with that?
Well, I haven't seen. This is the point that we as councillors haven't been given any information about this yet. So it's the first we've heard about it as well. So I don't know about that. And obviously the presentation hasn't contained a budget of any sort. So, but should we take any more questions on the principal idea?
In terms of the funding, there isn't an exact. It's roughly around 3.3k. There was an initial application that was put forward for the £10,000, but what we've done is we're looking to split the £10,000 over the 3 wards where we have like the community centres where we're able to offer slightly different activities and events. So this will be looking at the 3.3k, which would be a third as a proportion, obviously. But obviously we'd have to look at a slightly different approach because of the environment of the Age Concern Birmingham Cafe, where this is actually targeted, the Boldmere area.
So is there any more questions on the presentation itself and the ideas behind it? Anyone want to, I know Paul, you might want to come back on your own suggestions, but just while we're on Age Concern, does it sound like a good idea?
I'll just mute for now and then leave my hand raised for the other.
I'll bring you back in a sec. Any other comments on the application? If I'll take silence as an agreement that we've got a way of taking this forward, because obviously it's been very helpful to have that presentation. I know Kath and I as councillors would need to want to look at the application in detail before we come to a final view on this, and then we can obviously decide on the budget. Tony, did you?
It would be useful to go over what the process is, wouldn't it? Just so that people are aware that there is a process that you need to go through in terms of like applying for your funding and what that is.
Okay.
Ray, do you want to come back on that?
I believe John talked about the process in a previous meeting about how it would work, but I guess me or Carla could happily kind of talk a little bit about process now. And then perhaps if James would like to leave the meeting once I've done that. The process, Carla, would you like to talk about the bits of the process, and I can talk about the other bits? So the start of the process is people put their application via Birmingham City Council website, and then it is internally assessed. And when it's been internally assessed and it's fit for kind of coming to a ward meeting, it then goes to a ward meeting for presentation. We will ask Age Concern Birmingham to leave the meeting in a little while. We then ask the ward forum to vote on the merits of that application and whether they'd like to take it forward. Once that has happened, it then goes back to Birmingham City Council and the Neighbourhood Development Support Unit for sign-off and the internal workings of the City Council, and I step away from it. So my role is to kind of facilitate this part of the meeting. Birmingham City Council facilitate the gathering the application, the assessment process and all of that. And if the ward are happy with what they have heard, I will then pass that back to Birmingham City Council to do the sign-off process and the conditions of grant aid, that's our kind of needed to be done. Is there anything I've missed from that, Carla? Or Leslie?
Not that I'm aware of. I did just think maybe you could just talk about the free themes that the applications are linked to, possibly.
Your mic's off, Ray.
I do apologise. Sorry about that. There are 3 themes, which are, let me just have a look. I don't have them in front of me. John did a presentation, if you remember, at the last meeting, where there was get active, I do apologise, they're not in front of me because John had done this presentation previously. But what I can do is ask that presentation is redone at the next ward meeting.
I've got the 3 themes, Rob.
Oh,
It sounds like, is it Francis?
Yeah.
Well done, Francis. Dive in.
Right. Like you said, getting active. That's sports and recreational activities. Ready, steady, fun. Celebrating communities and getting the games ready. And thirdly, celebrating culture. Celebrating culture.
Okay, that's fine. That's really helpful. Francis, it's a good job. Okay. We have somebody on a, unlike me, on the meeting who's got an agenda in front of them. Tony, is this a relevant question to Age Concern before they leave this call? Tony, your mic's off. Your mic's off, Tony. Tony?
I like the idea. I wish I'd had it in front of me. My thought was, why just do this from October to July? You know, seems to me like something that should be ongoing. This is from my experiences over the last 18 months with activities we've had in Banners Gate. One of them was a 12-week game of bingo, where 2 of us got numbers together in the morning and give them out. And we did that every day for 5 or 6 days, depending on when bingo was called. And we were greeted with great enthusiasm. And most of them were saying, "You're the only person I see these days." Well, you know, Banners Gate in particular has an age group up there somewhere. And from what the previous guest was saying, we should have regular activities like this where people are being seen, where they're not left in the house. And, you know, their mental health must be appalling over the last 18 months. I mean, I know people who are terrified even now of going out and thinking that Johnson did exactly the wrong thing by opening up. I mean, there's a lot of people in a state at the moment. And in fact, I would go as far as to say I'm one of them, because I'm very careful about where I go these days, and I certainly wouldn't go anywhere without a mask on. I know that's not defending me, but I want to defend other people and maybe act as a good example. And I know from what we've been doing over the last 18 months that people are desperately alone. Shall I use a 5-letter word to explain how I feel they are? Thank you.
Do you want to come back on that then, Janice? Your mic's off. Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, apologies for that. I must have knocked it off. So in terms of the time scale of October to July, that would be based on the funding that's available. But naturally, whilst that is in place, whilst we are offering this programme, it's the perfect time for us to be able to monitor what the community really is looking for going forward. It's not that we intend to just cut it off. I mean, the Boldmere itself, it's a fabulous environment, and there's a lot of people of all ages that come through. And it's my understanding, prior to me joining the company and prior to COVID, that there were activities, certain activities that were put on in that cafe area. Obviously, furniture cleared away, and they were very popular, or they had the basis to be popular, but everything just came to a standstill. So whatever has been naturally proven as popular is what we're going to be building on and taking forwards. So we would like to continue with some of the activities, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Do we, Ray, do we ask each concerned to step out of the meeting now?
So if Janice would like to leave the meeting, and we will then move the process forward from here on in. And Janice, I'll be writing to you after the meeting around the outcome of where we are.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'm leaving now. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's great. And Paul, you've got your hand up still. Do you want to come in on that? So we're now discussing what's been put forward.
Yeah. I think there's a procedural error here, and I'm a bit concerned about this. On a number, so can somebody mute their microphone because we're getting a lot of echo? I think there's a procedure. First of all, this wasn't put on the agenda that we would be having a presentation, being expected to vote, and we haven't been given anything to look at beforehand. There's a number of community groups that are working together to put together proposals, and we were told that community groups that work together and look at things that are joined up for the ward and that would work in partnership with each other would be considered favourably. We were also advised as those groups of community groups not to worry about the initial deadline for round one, because there hadn't been any applications at that point for round one, and that and this is John Mole that had said this, he'd rather see quality applications put together rather than rushed applications put together. So I think there's a procedural concern there that this has been put forward as a proposal and nobody's prepared for it, and it's unfair on the other organisations who are bidding for what is quite a limited pot of money. From what I understand, they're asking for over 10% of that. I don't want to go into the merits or demerits of it first, because I think it needs to be stopped at the procedural point. But I've also got other concerns that with this whole thing, we are being held really back in terms of the stuff that we want to look at for the wider community, particularly in terms of sort of like making Boldmere and the Vesey area look good, ready for the Commonwealth Games as part of the Be Prepared part of it. We're being held back by Birmingham City Council and the Commonwealth Games, who are not communicating with us and not responding to our requests to assist. So for example, one of the things we are looking at doing is looking at putting bunting that would go across the street where the triathlon would be running. We can't put in a bid and propose that until we know whether that would be allowed or not in the bigger scheme of things with the triathlon. However, we keep asking and asking and asking. In fact, we were asking 18 months before the Commonwealth Games was due to start, but back in January, we've been asking. We keep getting no reply. Rob knows, and Kath as well, but I have asked you to intervene and to get these meetings going ahead so that we can have these discussions and we can put together proper quality bid. I know that Friends of Wild Green stations want to do something along those lines for Banners Gate and Boldmere Gate. Friends of those gates want to do something along those lines as well. So we're being held back by the very people who are supposed to be providing the funding, because the Commonwealth Games part of both of those organisations is not responding to our requests. We did initially have a good response, and then nothing's happened since. So I personally don't think we should be voting on this at all this evening, and I'd just like to propose that this gets put on the back burner and sort of like postponed for another time, but also that from this meeting something is done to make sure that communications between those of us that are applying and Birmingham City Council and the Commonwealth Games are effective enough for us to be able to make these bids.
I think you've made some fair points there, Paul.
Definitely.
And last week I did have a conversation. Kath and I had a conversation with John Mole and Carla last Wednesday when we were introduced to Carla about how we should follow the procedures here. Age Concern were the only bidder that got in on stage 1, so I think they do have the right to present what they've said tonight because they've done the right thing with that procedure. But I think what I'm seeing in the chat, I'll take the view of this meeting, is that we defer any decision on it until we've had a chance to look at other applications too, and then we decide on it in on the round. Is that Paul what you're proposing?
I think so, yes, particularly as we were advised by John Mole not to worry about the date for round 1. I think that makes it a very unfair then that we're now suddenly looking at, but also that it's just been suddenly thrown at us. It wasn't on the agenda. So I think it definitely needs deferring until other applications are coming in and you can look at the whole of the ward.
I think that's a really good point, Paul, because actually if we were to approve something today, we would then be looking at a reduced pot for all the other bids that come in. And, you know, if you're being unfairly held up by the structural side of things in terms of what you're allowed to bid for, in terms of the bunting, who pays for what, then that is entirely unfair. I agree with you there. So, yeah, over to you, Rob.
I think maybe Ray can give us a steer here. So I think what we really want to do, if I see in the chat, we pretty much got agreement on this. We'll take an indication from others. But we've heard the presentation, some really interesting stuff there. I think, Tony, you made your point that looks like some good ideas. In terms of actually deciding on whether we commission it, it looks like members of this forum are not ready to make that decision yet. Ray, could we then bring that decision back to a later point? I've checked this with John Mole, which he said we can do. So my suggestion is that's what we do as a result of today.
So there's a number of things. I will pick up the very first point about making sure it was on the agenda, and that's a small point kind of in all this. But I will undertake to make sure moving forward that me and Leslie kind of had that conversation. So I take some responsibility for that. Yes, we can. We must, whatever we do, we've got to vote on a decision. We can't just point blankly just arbitrarily say no. But what we can do, listening to what everybody has said, there's 3 places in a process we could be. We can vote to support the application, we can vote to turn the application down, or we can defer the application. This is a multi-ward bid. And it has gone to other wards as well. So I believe we are waiting on Sutton Vesey to make a decision for the full application. But what John had said before was it was about quality. Is a very good point, and he was absolutely right. However, Age Concern had put the application in as well, and we can't penalise them for kind of doing what they've done. So if I go back to where I am, I'm here to facilitate, not to kind of give a steer, if you like, unless I need to, I suppose, or kind of have a view. But it is for the ward forum, and it needs to be more than 6. It needs to be a vote where the 51% is carried. So as long as I have a 51% vote, whichever way this will be, that is what we will do. So can I propose?
If we take it from there, Ray, that what I'm gathering is that we would like to propose option 3, which is that we think it's a good idea, but we'd like to defer a final decision. Can we vote on that one?
We can. Can I have a show of hands then that actually that the application is a liked application, but it wants to be moved to the next ward meeting where other applications will be there as well, so you can work out how you best use the resources. So I need a show of hands from everybody who lives in Sutton Vesey on a kind of a vote. So at the moment I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
You need to have everyone's cameras on to make it.
We could have a show of hands in the chat.
Can we? Yeah, if you can't put your hand up visibly, could you put option 3? I think is what we're saying. Option 3 in the chat. Agree to deferring.
Would like to show of hands. So can I have
a
show
of
hands
in the chat?
yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. 10. Do I have anybody that would prefer we support the bid? Would we have anybody who doesn't want to support the bid? So I can see from this unanimously that there is a show of hands that we defer the application, not turn it down. And can I just take a kind of a view from everyone on the wording I will use? Because obviously I want to be very clear with the applicant when I write to them tomorrow that people like the presentation. However, they want to ensure this fits into kind of the broader picture for Sutton Vesey, and you would like the application deferred to a next meeting where we can piece the jigsaw together in essence.
I think that pretty neatly sums up. We've got you on record there, Ray. So the audio will be able to record what you've said. But I think, do I take it? I'll see comments that view that Ray has said is more or less what people think. Ray, you've got your hand up. Ray Beach.
Is it a legacy hand from the voting?
In the wording back to age concern, they don't need to be concerned that their bid is going to be lost. It's just that they would appear to the rest of us that they've got an unfair advantage over the rest. Not particularly their fault, I don't think, but that's the angle that I would be telling them at, that you want to take the whole thing, take a holistic view of things and not just the one bid. So I hope that confers with everybody else.
Yeah, I think we don't want to put them off. We just want to take it in a broader picture. Paul, you've got your hand.
Yeah, I agree with Ray. You know, I mean, I think there's been an unfortunate circumstances whereby age concern probably have done things the right way, but other groups were advised to do it differently, and there needs to be a fair play. I think the word probably that needs to use is a fair playing field. Please, could I ask that we don't go back to say we like the presentation, because we haven't actually discussed the merits or not of the presentation, because I specifically focused it on the technicalities rather than actually whether we like the presentation or not, because I think that's a different issue.
Could we say we'd like to see more detail in the application?
Well, I would certainly, because I personally didn't feel that met the 3 streets, and it didn't really sell it to me. So if I was voting at the moment, I wouldn't feel equipped to vote.
I think the other gap, if you can feed this back, Ray, I think they're supposed to refer to the ward plan. There is a Sutton Vesey ward plan, which we've meticulously put together. So again, I'm just skimming the presentation. I can't remember whether that was referenced properly. I didn't see it. So again, I think Paul's point is right, that we really want to know a bit more about the detail and how it locks into all the other things that are going to be done in our ward before we proceed. I'm conscious of the time here, folks, and we've got some other speakers waiting. So Ray, can we send them a summary of this discussion, and it is being recorded, so it's not to kind of turn it down, but so they understand why we're deferring a decision about the money.
I will do that. Absolutely, Councillor. Can I just pick up on a point that Paul has made, and I will then sort of just stop. Everything he said is absolutely right about the joined upness and everything, and absolutely as well that John was correct in saying that. But what John, can't do is control who puts the applications in at what stage. He's not in control of that. And the presentation he did last one, he was absolutely right, and what he said was absolutely right and proper. But still, if somebody puts an application in around that is out of John's control. So I wouldn't want anybody to think, that there's something John had said was factually inaccurate, because that wouldn't be fair either. Because what John was saying at the time was absolutely right. But some of these things, if somebody puts an application in around all of that's out of John's hands a little bit. So I wouldn't want the meeting to think that John sort of misled them in some way, because that would be wrong as well.
Oh,
No,
that
absolutely
didn't come
right.
across at all, no.
Yeah, no. I think we all
Don't
agree
worry
with
about
that.
Right.
So I'm sorry for the audience. It
But all
sounds
right,
like we're in a bit of a mess over this one, so I'll make sure that we've got it clearer when we next meet. And Ray, did you want to come back again, or is that a legacy hand?
Mr. Beach.
That's yeah, it's a hand is stuck.
Okay.
Well, let's just say thank you very much to Ray for steering us through that little bit of a minefield.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to bringing the other applications back once we've seen them all, and it will include age concern, and maybe we can pick up on some of the other detail which we didn't see in that presentation when we get it back a second time. Right, thanks very much. We will move on then to the next part of the meeting. Kath, you're chairing from here on, and we're talking road safety.
Go and get a cup of tea, Rob.
Oh, I've got a glass of water here, don't worry.
Okay, so we're on item 5 now, and it's the local highways and road safety projects. Karl, Randall, are you still in the room? If we can get you popping up on screen, that would be great. We've had quite a few discussions recently about road safety, speed traffic signs, and we've discussed the speeding issues that are local across the ward. So I'll hand over to you, Karl. Are you there?
Yes, thank you very much.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll touch just briefly on last year's schemes, because most of them are just about finished. We did some traffic regulation orders for yellow lines, a little bit on Boldmere Road, Fir Tree Grove and Station Road. They're all in and complete on site, and they are to be sealed with legal services on the 15th of October, and they will all become enforceable by our civil enforcement officers. Most of the drop curbs are completed, but there are still some to get done. We are aware of that. So that's just very brief on last year's schemes. Moving on to this year, yes, we've had a few discussions. Vesey is always a very busy highways related, and we always have a large number of issues that we need to try and tackle. We have limited funding, so what we have to do is try and agree where our priorities are with yourselves and with the residents, following the requests that we've received and the issues that we're aware of. So some of the things we're looking to do this year that we've agreed, we're looking on Chester Road North by Warwick Road, where the school crossing patrol warden crosses the children and parents across. We're looking to reduce the speed limit on a section of that road from 40 mile an hour to 30 mile an hour. We've had a site meeting, we've been there a few times. We agree with the concerns raised by the school crossing patrol person and also their supervisor. People are coming up at inappropriate speeds, sometimes even 40 is a challenge for the warden. So we're looking at reducing the speed limit in both directions for a reasonable distance, to where we can achieve a much safer speed for the warden to cross. But we're also looking at the same place to do some of the flashing amber signs. We're looking to put a 20 mile an hour when lights flash. So the speed limit overall to come from 40 to 30 as a permanent in a section that we're yet to consult on, but it'll be a reasonable section there. But then within that will be a 20 when lights flash. So only for the two specific times of the day, Monday to Friday, school times, where we ask people to slow down to 20. There'll be new signs going up for that on high visibility backing boards to try and again improve the offer for people crossing there. We're also looking to put a handrail on the slope down to Avery Road, tubular steel handrail, and also there's some damaged fencing that we're looking to replace with some pedestrian guardrails. We have quite a large number of dropped curb requests in the Vesey ward. These are where we drop the curbs on the corners of roads, from the existing 5-inch height down to around 6 millimetres, just enough to let the water run off still. This aids pedestrians crossing, wheelchairs, mobility scooters, buggies, etc., and gives them a much lower, safer level to try and negotiate the crossing. We've got a large number in Vesey requested for two reasons. One, people bring those to us, bring it to our attention, and two, we've also been surveying the ward in particular, because I know, Councillor Scott, you're keen on the accessibility issue in Vesey. So we've been actively looking for these locations. It is expensive to drop the curbs. It's around £1,600 a pair. Funding's limited, but we are looking to do as many as we can this year, and we've got a number of locations in mind. We've also got a reserve list that we're looking to build up, should any additional monies be identified from whatever source. What we'd like to do is be in a position, if monies are found or highlighted or underspent anywhere else, that we can just go straight in and say, yes, this is what we need this amount of money for, and we can go and carry out those works there. So that's a reserve list that we've got. I think at this stage I'll probably take any questions if that's okay, because I know
well, we've got no hands up at the moment apart from Paul Young, but could you just give us a quick update on the position of the safer routes to school, speed reduction on Monmouth Drive, and then I've also had emails from residents again regarding a pedestrian crossing down by the Stonehouse Road.
Yes,
to the park. See where we are with that.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've had a few issues and incidents and sadly a fatality on Monmouth Drive. The bottom end of Monmouth Drive towards Chester Road North, Bannersgate Road, we had a request via a Safe Routes to Schools capital scheme that we was consulting with the school on to make it safer for children to cross at that end, to cross Monmouth Drive. And when we assess the speed, well, the speed limit is 40, but the actual speeds can sometimes be higher than that, as we're aware. So we wasn't able to reduce, we wasn't able to install a zebra crossing or similar, because the Department for Transport guidance is you shouldn't put a zebra crossing if the speeds are above around 36 miles an hour. So the speed limit's 40. We couldn't justify a signal control crossing, the numbers of people crossing there, and the priority and cost of a pelican crossing, which is 2.5 times that of a zebra. We just couldn't justify it. So we was progressing with the idea of a zebra crossing, which would be about approximately £30,000, but we needed to get the speed down under 35, 36 mile an hour first. So what we've done, we've put the pedestrian refuge in as something to offer, something where people can cross halfway, etc. We've reduced the speed limit in that section from 40 to 30 mile an hour, and then we was letting that bed in for a few months, and we've actually arranged the survey now. I do possibly have a date of that. Let me see if I can find it very, very, very quickly, rather than take up too much time. We're in the process of finding. We're arranging a few surveys, and then we'll pay for them all to be done at once. They're not all in Vesey. I look after 23 wards, so we have these issues all over, unfortunately. So we'll be doing the speed survey shortly. We'll put a tube down, and that'll measure the speed of the vehicles 24 hours a day for 7 days. If that shows that we've achieved a reduction in the average speed, then stage 2 is trying to get the money for a zebra crossing. We've got the justification that we can provide one. However, what we then need is £30,000+ to install it. Now, the difficulty we'll have then, and that's on the safe routes to school element that you asked, we have a longer outstanding request, if you like, for a zebra crossing on Monmouth Drive at Stonehouse Road. So we have conflicting, juggling our priorities here. Which do we do first? So what we do, we go on things like the injury collision history, the speeds that are recorded, the numbers of people that are attempting to cross the road at those locations. And if we're in a position where we can fund one zebra crossing, we'll have to make a difficult decision if they both qualify as to which one. It's simply, which one is a higher priority. If we can get the money from wherever for two, then we can look to progress with the two. At the moment, there's only a pedestrian refuge on Monmouth Drive at Stonehouse Road. I had that put in around 10, 12 years ago. It was all that we could justify at the time. It was around £12,000. I sat and did the surveys for several days, and that was where everybody was attempting to cross when there was nothing there at all. So that became, the preferred location because that was the desire that people were taking. Now, of course, we've had the sad fatality on a little bit to the east of that on Monmouth Drive. I can't say anything about that. It's obviously police investigation, etc. And we need to see the outcome of that, the causation factors, and was there anything that can be done in the future to reduce the chances of something like this happening. We just simply can't do anything in lieu of an investigation. And then I'm also aware more recently of another issue where two people in a vehicle hit the brick roundabout at about 2:30 a.m. the other morning. Again, persons are in hospital, police are aware, etc. And again, people can make assumptions, but we can't do anything or act at this stage. We need the actual evidence and the actual police report, coroner's report in the other instance, and then we assess and see what we can do, if anything.
Right, so it's a long journey.
It's a long journey. There was a sad fatality in Warmley and Minworth Ward, Lindridge Drive at Holly Lane, October 2018, that only went to court this year, a couple of months ago, and only now can we follow that up with some measures. These things do sometimes, they have to take the course.
Okay, so thank you, Karl. We'll pop over to questions now, and I've got 4 hands raised. Firstly, Paul Long, then Tony Willis, Francis Hayward, and then Ray Beach. Okay, over to you, Paul.
Yeah, well, as a parent of young children who ride their bikes on the pavement for safety because it's far too dangerous on the roads at times, these dropped curbs at corners are an absolute godsend. So really pleased that they're being doing. But at the same time, when we get to the point where we want to cross Monmouth Drive to get into the park, we are literally putting lives into hand. I have to sort of like you're watching traffic that's coming from an island, and you just do not know whether it's going to come or whether it's not going to come, whether it's turning, not turning. It is awful trying to actually do that. So I think something does need to be done, in terms of that crossing. I think it's an awful situation we live in this country, whereby we have to wait for people to be killed or injured before anything gets done on preventative. But I do understand that's something you would love to be able to resolve, Karl. If you were given all the money that you had, you would obviously do all of those things.
Absolutely.
And get them all done. But we've got to be realistic. Just wanted to pick up on a couple of other things. I'm going to have to raise Sunnybank Road again because I think it's 2012 we put the original petition in, so it's coming on nearly 10 years now since that original petition, the bumpiest road in Sutton. That if we can have an update on that again. And you remember when I did some work with Mark Hodgson from the police road safety team, and we'd sort of like brought into quite a high profile the parking on the curbs situation. Obviously, I know the police are very stretched, and Sergeant Ali will no doubt profess to that, but I just wonder if the community police can be looking at that again, because it is creeping back.
We'll get the police to respond to that one when they come on next call, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. And then also you've installed these fantastic double yellow lines down Boldmere Road by the Maisonettes, Highbridge Road. I've seen now that the cars have decided that they think it's okay if they just park half on the pavement, half on the road, or almost fully on the pavement, that they're actually not breaking the law, but they are. Of course, the police can't do anything about it because it's a double yellow line, and we need, so we need the traffic wardens in now. So if we can get a request for the traffic wardens to come along, and I thought like any scheme around schools where we're requesting 20 mile an hour is great. But I think we've been requesting for Boldmere Road from around Boldmere Junior School right down through the shops to be 20 mile an hour for quite a long time as well. So just want to keep that on the radar, particularly as we've had 2 accidents recently at Antrobus Road Junction again, which, my thoughts on that one. That it is quite a dangerous junction. It is very difficult. People don't know how to behave when you've got a 4-way junction, and how to yield, etc. Properly. So if something can be, if that can be kept on the radar, that'd be great.
Okay, if I can respond to a couple
quickly
of
to that. Yep.
Okay, thank you. The yellow lines will be sealed with legal services on the 15th of this month. They're not enforceable until after that date, but after that date they will be legally enforceable. However, the police do have powers that can be used regarding to willful and unnecessary obstruction of the footway. So yes, the City Council CEOs enforce all lines, all yellow lines, limited waiting bays, etc. But whether there are lines there or not, if the police deem it to be an obstruction, and they have, somebody in the area, somebody who witnesses that, or can take action against that, they can. You're right, the lines extend virtually to back of footway. So if somebody parks half on the footway or fully on the footway, the lines still count. However, that doesn't help the pedestrian very much, but it gives 2 options to issue a fine to them. On the on the 20 mile an hour, yes, it's still on our list for Boldmere Road. Some people will argue it never moves that fast, and it'd be nice to achieve 20 at certain times. But that's there, along with, you've heard some of the priorities this evening, and that's why it's difficult to include Boldmere Road in that priority, because that would cost several £1,000s, and is that a greater priority than another location? It's a juggling balance that we have every year against the amount of money that we have, but it's still there, Paul. It's something we will always consider.
Okay.
Can I just chip in
Carl,
one
I
quick
love all
one,
your medals as well.
Yes, great medals. On the question of Sunnybank Road, if I can, quick one.
Go on.
Sunnybank Road, yes, it's still not on the programme that I'm aware.
Just what I was going to say, Karl, is that I know that Kia Highways do the assessment on this, and they've invited councillors for comments in their ward.
Okay.
So I know there's some new money floating around. So I have added on my response, Paul, that Sunnybank Road is, and I think there's a bit of Westwood Road at the top, which is also like a Westwood Road. That's a bit like a ploughed field in both cases. So I've asked those to be reconsidered.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of roads in Vesey still we've been struggling with. Overall, Sutton has done quite well. And I know that because I've been inundated with complaints about road closures, temporary traffic lights. But, I'm trying to say, well, look on the positive side, you've got a new road. But yes, we've still got some more roads to do. I accept that.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to ask Tony and then Francis and Ray to ask their questions, and then for Karl to respond after they've asked theirs. So over to Tony, please.
Okay, thanks for the drop curve, Karl. Very nice, mate. I'm glad Paul mentioned the medals, because I was wondering what the hell was going on there, to be honest with you. But anyway, parking. I park in by the side of the charity shop, Oxfam.
Red
It
Acre
used to be
Road.
fairly easy because I need to offload my wheelchair on the passenger side, and so on the curb it was so much easier than doing it on the double yellow lines into the road. But that's become horrendous recently, and I believe it's down to the Victoria car park being shut. Any chance of that opening? Why is it shut, and when's it going to open again? The second point is the pedestrian lights. It seems they've been played around with recently, because at one point they were lovely. As soon as you press the button, the lights were in our favour. But now it takes a little bit longer, and the amber seems to be on for ages. I mean, I was nearly hit the other day because motorists tend to think that the amber is not stop, and it is. So any chance of the red light a little bit longer and the amber a little bit less? Because a really nasty comment from someone the other day, because in the wheelchair I have to make sure that traffic is the pedestrians are clear before I start crossing, because I never know which way they're going to dodge around me, so I tend to leave it, right? So a little bit more thought on that would be nice, I think.
Is this at Boldmere Stonehouse Jockey?
No, this is by Aldi on the bottom of Birmingham Road.
Oh, I know. Yes. Okay.
Just
let
Road
me.
and Jockey.
Yeah. Let me inquire on that, Tony.
Okay.
On Victoria Road, multi-storey. What can I say and what am I allowed to say? Don't build your hopes up.
Well, I can't get into it anyway because my vehicle's too high. The same can't get into Grace Church. Yeah,
nobody can. It's been shut 18 months. It costs a lot of money to keep open a year. When I used to manage it, it was something that, I don't know, security alone was like £90,000. There are hundreds and hundreds of tube lights. I had £500,000 spent on it, and you wouldn't know tuppence was spent a few years ago. When all of my surface level car parks are below 50-60% capacity, the 6-storey multi-storey, which I close the top to, I know, for various reasons, is not going to open. It makes no commercial sense whatsoever when all of the others, you've got 900 odd spaces at Grace Church, you've got about 3,000 spaces in Sutton. To open this one at those running costs when all the others are underutilised, there are, I probably can say, there are wider discussions, wider things going on the Sutton Coldfield Master Plan, Birmingham SPD, and the whole area is being looked at. I wouldn't put any money on it reopening.
Well, can I make a suggestion then? The only places that I can really park is on the road, because when I've tried outside TK Maxx, inevitably those are full, and then I've got the hassle of getting out again, not being able to park. Can I suggest that every end parking place is potentially a disabled parking spot? All you need is that little bit of width of yellow stripy stuff, and there you have it. And there's quite a few of them in that car park.
Which car park, Tony? Sorry.
The one out by TK Maxx. I don't know what you call it. It's
New Hall Walk. It's not City Council, Tony. I've got no jurisdiction.
Oh, is it not? Who is that to?
In my jurisdiction, you've got the 27 spaces on Brassington Avenue, the 3 in Holland Street, and every one of my car parks, it's free for blue badge holders, although there's no specific bays, just, park anywhere and it's free.
Okay.
I've got no jurisdiction on the drop curbs. Thank Councillor Scott. She's championing.
It is my personal hobby to put in as many drop curbs as possible to help with disabilities.
Maybe I should have been having a go at you all these years then instead of Karl.
Feel free to have a go at me, Tony. I'm always here to listen. It'll be my pleasure to sit down and have a chat with you. Onward to Francis, please. Sorry, we've had to wait, Francis.
Hello. In fact, it's
John on
John, hiya.
Sorry, my laptop is playing up, but I just wanted to clarify with Karl who it is that enforces the no idling policy for people waiting to collect children from school, both summer and winter. Is it police or is it the wardens? And if so, how, do they come and try and tell people not to do it sometimes?
Okay, John, thanks for your question. I do remember you asking me last year about July time. Following that, I did make inquiries. The City Council's civil enforcement officers do not enforce that. Many councils do not enforce it. Public Health England are lobbying the government to try and get it as, I don't know, a law, an act, or whatever. So far as I know, there is no actual policy. It's more of a practice. I did manage to find out after quite a while that it was somebody I know in environmental health who I needed to inquire to. Before I got that far, another colleague did email environmental health and asked a question on my behalf when he was responding to me, because I think I started with public health and licensing and different people, and then I was signposted to environmental health, but the question had been asked. And it wasn't until Councillor Pocock emailed me today to warn me of your question that I've been able to track back through my emails, realise I didn't receive a response to that, and I have emailed in the earlier part of the meeting today. I've emailed my colleague in environmental health and I've asked a question. Additional research I did. Department for Transport, there's no approved signs in the traffic signs manual that we can use. I have seen other signs that people put up, and people can put signs up as long as it's not on the highway. Although your question tonight and previous was specific to schools, and I can understand why, it was actually being looked at to be brought in for everywhere. People idle, wherever, wherever they're waiting. But I can see that schools are a particular concern. You have a large number of parents and guardians twice a day, all waiting. So I'm afraid I still haven't got an answer for you, but I have chased now, I believe it's environmental health, and hopefully I will get a response to that, but not the police either.
Right, thanks very much indeed, Karl.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
Ray, final question over to you. To Beach, you're muted. Ray's middle name is
muted. Still muted.
Technical issue. Beach. There you go, Ray.
I clicked it and nothing happened. We discussed part of what John's just been saying at our recent forum committee meeting, but it went a bit further than that, and I don't know whether it's worth adding on to what John has just said. We've got one committee member who lives in Cofield Road, just beyond the school, or just beyond the caretaker's house, and they are constantly having an ice cream van for several hours sometimes, or at least many hours during the week. She said, I can't open the windows because of the fumes coming in.
I've seen it, yeah.
What can we do about that? And is it possible that the City Council could take some bylaws or something and sort this out?
Sorry, Ray, if you're asking me, I know the ice cream people, if that's the right word, need the engines on. But as far as policy, legislation, licensing, it's outside of what I would know, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, we'll have to take it up at a different level then. Can I carry on with the other items that were raised at our committee meeting? Yeah. One of the items is the extreme waste of space on Boldmere Road, where people are leaving big gaps between their vehicles. And I've had a request to see if we can get the bays marked in between, so that you have to park in between the lines. That was the one item. The other one is the disabled bay as you turn into Redacre Road. I've had many complaints about it being dangerous. A car turning in from Boldmere Road into Redacre Road is immediately confronted with the rear of a vehicle right on the as close as it can be virtually to the junction, and they can't see beyond it to see if there's anything coming towards them. It's an accident waiting to happen. So I've had lots of comments on that one to me. That's about it for you, Karl.
Okay.
That's can't go
Two
any
interesting
further.
points, Karl. Marking up the bays and then the left turn.
Yeah, now we've had the marking at the bays raised previously, not necessarily for Boldmere Road, or not that I recall, but we may well have. The way we've responded before, it can be done, is the simple answer, but it doesn't always net the results that people may think. And the reason is when you mark a bay, the end bay, the very end one, because people have less manoeuvring to do, you can go down to about 5.5 metres. But the middle bays, or the ones in between, the guidance is 7 metres. Now, if you imagine driving into a supermarket bay, for example, just as you do, they're 4.8 metres, and your car just about fits, standard car, 2.4 metres wide, 4.8 deep. You imagine if that was 7 metres to allow manoeuvrability, people reversing in, which is not the easiest manoeuvre that people do. You can actually have a net loss and what appears to be large gaps in between. So it's, careful what you wish for. You may find that there's a nice tidy line and a net loss of 2 vehicles each section. We could look at it and see what you could get in a particular section compared to what typically happens. I know sometimes it's frustrating when people park, as though they've got a much longer vehicle than they actually have. But also sometimes you get some real good parking, some real tight parking. But when you mark it to the book, you may well find that you actually lose.
Okay, that's great, Karl. At least we brought it to you, and we've now got an answer for the people that have requested it in the first place. So
And
it was worth bringing it up.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. On Redacre Road, the bays we put in, we're well aware that we don't want to cause an issue. People come round the corner and they're faced with other vehicles. 2 things on that: people used to park there anyway. Tony Willis might back me up. He may have been one of them when it was on a line, because Blue Badge can park on the line for 3 hours. So where we've marked the bays now is 10 metres or in excess away from the junction of Boldmere Road, and the highway code states that you should not park within 10 metres of a junction. So we've put them 10 metres or 10 metres plus away from the junction, and where people could have parked anyway. So sorry if some people have had near misses, but it really would have to say it's down to people driving carefully and consideration for others.
Okay. So I'm going to have to draw this item to a close because we're 5 minutes towards the end of our meeting. We still have 2 items on the agenda. So thank you, Karl, and thank you everyone for the questions to Karl. Much appreciated. If I could just bring in Sergeant Zulf Ali to give us an update on policing matters in the ward. There's been quite a few issues, as we have heard, with accidents and obviously some terrible news about quite a significant incident at Princess Alice. So if Zulf, you could give us a quick update on the issues and what we're doing about them.
Yeah, the first incident that you mentioned, the awful incident that's happened at the back of Retail Park. At this moment, we're still conducting live inquiries. Our public protection unit are doing inquiries into the local facility, house to house inquiries, seeing if they've got any CCTV, and and also the retail park as well, see what inquiries can get done there. So, and speaking to witnesses. So that's been done. I don't want to be commenting too much about the investigation. At this moment, my officers, and I've managed to we've got support from other departments within the police. So we're providing reassurance patrols, making sure that the public feel assured and feel safe, because this is, as I said, a nasty incident, and it's about very much making sure that the public feel that they're being supported, and they're not this. How can I say? It is just such a bizarre and horrible incident that's, you know, it's out of the ordinary. It's nothing, you know, it's just horrible. But we're putting in the resources, and we're putting in staff, and I mean the officers now at this moment be patrolling up and down, speaking to people, and just giving that reassurance message that, you know, we're there for you. We're obviously, we're your police, and we're there to protect you. So that's messages gone out by me to my officers to make sure that they engage with as many people as they can to make sure that's happening. The second incident that you mentioned, the Monmouth Drive, it's, what can I say? It's just a horrible incident. It's people, by the looks of it, speeding. At this moment, I'm not too sure what stage the investigation's at, so I don't want to be making comments whether it is what's involved in it. But quite clearly, people aren't obeying the Road Traffic Act. So I need to be. Ideally, what I'd like to do is put in measures straight away and make sure that people don't speed. We can get everything up and running, and I think I've spoken to Kath, yourself, Councillor, and Rob as well about putting in measures. But I know this is just by listening to what's been said earlier on, that this is going to be very long term measure. So straight away, what I'm going to be doing is asking my officers to go out, and they're doing speed watches. I've asked Ian to incorporate part of that speed watch, so we can get some speed watches done on Monmouth Drive. I'm also been linking in with my traffic department to see whether we could do some operations, speed awareness education about the location, but also I'll be linking with yourselves and Karl to see what measures we could put in place to prevent this happening in the long term. So that's where we are with that.
Okay. And there are, you know, many speed awareness operations going ahead through the local community groups, and more are popping up as we speak. I'm getting a lot of contact from people who wish to create their own, and in particular on Monmouth Drive since this incident happened. So, you know, rest assured that, you know, there will be some more public interest in bringing more of those events back down there, and one of the things that I'm working on outside of the police and highways is trying to get more speed guns for our local community groups, because we've got so many groups running. I really think that we need to try and find some way to invest in the effort that everyone's putting in, and try and get some more speed guns for our local groups. So let's just wait and see if I can pull that one off. That would be great. That might go a long way to really helping, and because I know, you know, resources have been really stretched recently, as you've stated, because there's just been quite a lot going on.
There's a lot of stuff that's been happening in the town centre as well, which you're probably aware of. So yeah, resources have been stretched, to say the least, but it doesn't mean that we can't be effective. We are working with the public, because ultimately it's the public that's help us, and we help them to feel safe. But they are our eyes and ears, really, and when they feed information, that's what helps us, the public. And it's you know, everyone's been great out there. The Vesey, you know, true to spirit. Yeah, everyone's been brilliant with us, and we've been working with them to, you know, to these sort of things. Horrible incidents, you know, are what can I say? It's just the nasty incidents, and they don't represent us at all, our community, and it's just
no, they don't represent our wards at all, but they are a significant reminder of, like, you know, there's dangers out there, and that we need to.
Horrible stuff that's just out of this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be rest assured we're doing our best. We've got everyone working on this this incident that's happened in Princess Alice, and we're not stopping at anything. We'll try our best to catch this offender.
Okay, fabulous. Also, Ray Beach, have you got a question, or is that a legacy hand? And then we'll go on to Francis Howard after that, or is
it's a legacy. I don't think it was put down after the last.
Thank you.
So Francis or John?
John, I'll link in. So Rob and Kath, I'll link in with you later on, some stage next week.
Okay.
Can I be excused?
You can. I know you've been waiting for 2 hours.
One quick thing to you, sir, which is there somewhere that I can report a discussion I had with a young driver who was very angry with me for keeping a speed limit? I took the details of his vehicle. I shouldn't think he owned it, but he thought it was ridiculous to drive at 30 miles an hour in a 30-mile speed limit.
Of course you can.
Where can I report that?
You can send it to our Vesey inbox.
It wasn't in Vesey.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, this is the problem. I was driving to pick the kids up from school. I was probably actually into Walsall because it was on the Chester Road going towards.
Have you got details of the registration details of this?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I don't know the make of the car because I'm no good at that, but I could give what I've got. But where can I send it?
If you send it through to the Vesey email address, I'll make sure one of my officers picks that up.
That's one. Because what's needed is someone to go and talk with this young man.
Yeah,
he must have passed
have a stern word.
Yeah,
Speed limit's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. If I could be excused,
that means
everyone, and have a safe
evening. Thank you, Zulf. That's brilliant. I know, Paul, that you've got a question regarding the obstructions on the highways, and we have discussed this before. That recently the ability for us to self-report blockages on pavements has been removed from us because of the amount of time and money it takes for them to be processed from the police side of things. So unfortunately, a lot of the things we could do about that have gone, and I can't answer about the amount of resource available to monitor these things from the police perspective, but it's obvious that they are tied up with other things as well at the moment. I know that doesn't fully answer your question, but I can keep chasing for that to be reinstated if that helps at all.
I think even just looking at the obvious ones while the police are on patrol, like, you know, I've watched some of the PCSOs just walk past these vehicles.
Have you? Let me know if you see that happening again.
I
can speak directly.
Well, what, you know, please, couldn't you just look at that and see, you know, we do it as parents, you know, we have to walk out to the road, and it's.
I know, I've done it myself down in the exact space you're talking about, so I know very well. So I will have a little word with the PCSOs who were doing the rounds there and ask them to be a bit more forthcoming on that.
We waste a lot of time and effort by sending in the reports ourselves, including computer time, printing, and all the rest of it. There's about a 6-page item you've got to fill in to send it in, and they didn't even tell us that they were discontinuing it. I wasn't very pleased with that at the last meeting.
I know. Yeah, so perhaps we need to have a focus on police and crime safety in the near future for everyone to sort of air these discussions and the things that did work and didn't work, and make something more out of that. Perhaps November time, where we can get relevant people into the same room together. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, Kath. Let's talk about how we can fix that. Make a big thing of it.
Yeah, make a big thing of it, indeed. I apologise that we're now at 21:06 in the evening, but do any of our community groups, moving on to the next item, wish to give an update to those left in the meeting? Ray, and then Paul, and then Tony Willis. Off to you, Ray. And then Rebecca.
There's a time lag from when I click it to when you can hear me.
You're in a different time zone.
Well, I sometimes wonder. Having had this committee meeting, I mean, there's 2 people on now that were at the meeting. I think it's only fair to warn you about other things, and perhaps you can have some answers when we get the AGM underway. First of all, Carla Bell, that we heard earlier, I don't know whether she's still on. Has she taken Ken Brown's position on the support for neighbourhood forums?
I'll just fill in on that. There's some new posts in the neighbourhood unit, so I think they've appointed 3 new officers. Carla is one. I guess one of those is to fill Ken's vacancy, but there is actually more stuff involved. So the neighbourhood unit is expanding, and I think she's part of that group.
Okay. The other bit, Rebecca Clark has mentioned earlier, the lack of toilets and facilities in the park. And it's been brought to my attention that the toilet at Banners Gate, that's part of the kiosk, is no longer accessible at all because they're not letting anybody go through the kiosk.
Is that recently?
Well, this was only,
because I did chase that over the summer with John Mole, and he personally went and had a word with them, and they opened it immediately. And then I spoke to him again to double check if that was still the case, and he hasn't got back to me, so I'm assuming it's good news and that it is still open. But what I'd like you to do is, you know, if folks are around there and they notice that they're not opening the toilets, that you let me know, because it is part of their contractual arrangements that is the case.
Told that the lady in there said it's not open, and as far as I'm concerned, we don't want it open.
Well, she might not want to, but that's not you know, that's
I'm trying
not
to
the
think
point.
of the date that we had our meeting.
Yeah, I'll chase John again.
Kath. Only last month.
Only last month.
Yeah.
So I spoke to him about 2 weeks ago, and he said he was going to have another little look, but I'll chase him again this week just to make sure that they are still upholding their part of the agreement. Okay.
I'm just having a look to see which evening we had the meeting, and I can't see it. Oh, it was on the 15th of September when we had our committee meeting, and I'm told that at that point that people had been refused entry to the toilet.
I'll chase it again for you, no worries. I might pop in myself.
Because that was the improvement over the previous scheme where we just had an ice cream van in there.
Okay, leave it with me.
That leaves people very frustrated if it's shut.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, we rely on that place. You know. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Anything else, Ray?
Only a quick question for Tony while he's on. Are we in any way going to resume with the IT awareness course that we were holding? We're still holding a lot of money to pay for tuition and things.
Yes, we are. We are definitely going to continue with it. I had a word with Nick Bruce the other day. It's just a question of confidence in the ability to meet safely. But we are definitely working on it.
Okay, good. And very finally, where did I get to? I've lost my space. Advice, if anybody can give any, that our neighbourhood forum bank account is with HSBC, and they've informed me that from the 1st of November they will be charging £5 a month just for having an account with them, and a percentage on anything we pay in cash or cheque, and a charge for issuing cheques.
Okay, speak to John Mole. John Mole has got a handle on which banks work best with our community groups, and he might be able to recommend something better. He did mention one to me at one point, but I can't recall off the top of my head which bank that is, and it's probably not right for me to say in public anyway. So have a word with John Mole, and I don't want to be advertising.
Not without taking a decent fee, Kath.
Yeah, I'm not taking a fee for it, so I won't say.
Contact Karen Cheney and Andrew Perry, and neither of them had got any information. So I'll get on to John Mole tomorrow. Thank you very much.
All right.
Ray, I just add, I understand. I think I sent you an email a couple of weeks ago. NatWest have a community account that offers free banking to community groups, and it gives you a debit card, and there's no charge for checks.
Yeah, that's a good place to start then, Ray.
I've been into there, Becky, and they said that we weren't eligible for it. I've actually been into NatWest in the town centre. I've got their business card in my. Actually, it's in with my travel pass at the moment.
Yeah, I sent you a link. I don't know if you have to sign up to it on the website, but there's a link community bank account, and it's banking not-for-profit organisations. So it's free online accounting as long as you don't spend or put in more than £100,000 a year. It's supposed to be free of charge.
Okay, can we leave that there so that I can move on to the next community groups? Otherwise, we'll be here till 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks, Becky, for that update as well. That's really useful. Francis Hayward, I'm assuming this is John from Eco Sutton to give your update.
I think we've raised our issues through the items that have talked about, so I won't take any more of the time.
Oh, thank you. Very kind. Thank you, John. Paul Long.
Yeah, so just something Ray forgot, and I'll just fill in for him as well because it fits in reverse. The Neighbourhood Forum annual general meeting is going to be at 7:30 p.m. on the 9th of November. That's the Boldmere Neighbourhood Forum, sorry, just to clarify. And that will be a joint AGM with the Boldmere Futures Partnership. And it's really important we have people there. We need at least 22 people there so that Boldmere Futures Partnership can move forward into becoming a CIC, which will give us a lot more money raising and autonomy,
your elbow, yeah, okay,
to do things. We're in the middle of Boldtober now, so for those of you who are still left on the call, it's not many I can see. If you have a look at go to boldmere.org website and have a look about what Boldtober is about. Lots of fun stuff happening every Saturday, except the last Saturday in October. So have a look at that, please, read it. The festival is now planned for the 21st of November, the Boldmere Christmas Festival. You can all be the first to know publicly that the person turning on the Christmas lights will be Perry. I'll let you think about that one. Yeah, and then it's the Commonwealth. Yeah, that's right. The Commonwealth Games mascot.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
We're having the Commonwealth Games roadshow there as well.
You see, you got on the radar at last, Paul.
Yay.
Sorry?
You got on the radar there at last.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got a new big sponsor as well to help us out financially. So there'll be more coming out about that. So, yeah, Rebecca, I agree with your comment.
Not a award meeting, thank you.
Don't say any more. That's it, I think.
That's it, Paul. Okay, fab.
Yeah.
Becky, last word to you for, I guess, Friends of Boldmere Gate.
Hi, I'll be very brief. So we're currently trying to organise our first face-to-face meeting since the start of the pandemic, which is super exciting. And we've also looked into an opportunity for some funding with Severn Trent Water, which could be substantially enough to look at restoring or paying some sort of cafe kiosk and some sort of outdoor play equipment in the park. So the first phase of trying to access that money, because it's up to £200,000 that we can bid for with just a 10% partnership funding contribution, which shouldn't be too difficult if 90% paid by Severn Trent. So I expect to see circulating around the community, and if you do give it a boost, a petition, not saying we're angry about something, but a petition of support for improvement in facilities at Boltmere Gate. So instead of the usual naggy, we're not very happy petition, we're going to be sending out a very positive, we still support the proposal, because it's been a few years since our last public consultation as a community about play facilities.
5 years ago, actually,
yeah.
2016, when we went on the streets and we had a little ourselves up
Planning
there asking people
real.
to say planning
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah,
that's the one.
So we're aware that although we suspect it's a stable community and things haven't changed, it's still good to demonstrate some support. Myself and Adele probably be on Boltmere High Street, or promoting some of the ideas we have on the bid and doing some community engagement over the next few weeks. And as soon as we have a date at the Harvester for our face-to-face meeting, we'll be publicising it. But as all things move forward and we have the new normal, you know, it's going to be really great to sort of like push ahead and make a difference for everyone, because the Commonwealth Games are coming. It's all very exciting, and it'd be nice for there to be a lasting play legacy at the home of the Triathlon Games, and some toilets too.
Yeah, that would be marvellous. So we look forward to seeing you on the streets, and you are right, it is you know, we're ripe to be, or you know, we're all desperate to get back out there and talk to each other face to face, and you know, get all our wants and needs out there in the public domain and to raise awareness, etc. So well done, everybody. I'm going to draw the meeting to a close now. I apologise for it going on, and Paul, I'll take your suggestion.
Have a quick second, please. Just a
oh,
quick
sorry,
second.
Tony. Yes, you may.
For the 21st of November Boltmere Lights thing, I've had money from the Town Council going back 18 months to have a 16-page fully coloured gate post with Paul. If you can give me stuff to fill the middle 2 pages, that'd be great, and then that could be a guide. And one last thing, someone couldn't turn up today, Janet Sharp. She wants to know if there's a protest group about the field where over 900 houses are going to be built opposite on the side of Queslet Road. Is it a protest group she wants to join?
Yeah, I can fill in on that one. There is a Facebook group which is about Saving Street, the green space, I think it is. If you drop an email to me or get her to email me, I'll send her the link.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Apologies, Tony, for almost missing you out there. And it looks like Paul wants you to email him the details of that as well.
Yeah, you can just email me the stuff about Gatepost.
Will do.
Deadlines.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for staying on the line so late. It's been lovely to talk to you all. And again, Paul, I'll take your suggestion on board about turning the agenda upside down, and we will see you at the next one.
Trying to avoid any other surprise items on the agenda, which I think we're all caught a bit short by that issue that suddenly appeared. So let's hope we get it squared off next time.
Indeed.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. So nice to see you all.
Going to have my tea now.